One of the prisoners, Priscilla Camacho, says that she and other prisoners are coming forward about the current water conditions because they are desperate for clean water. We have talked to state officials who do not agree. For years, Camacho and other prisoners have been dealing with infections such as E. coli that they can only blame on the dirty water that they drink, cook with, and bathe in.
The water was brown. I mean, literally, it was coming out dark brown. This is what we were bathing in. This is what we were brushing our teeth with. This is what we were in all the time. And anytime we give them that response or we ask that we speak to the warden about it, they'd always just tell us, oh, everything's fine. There's nothing wrong with the water.
These images were taken from inside of the prison, and they show water bottles filled with water from the facility. The person who sent us these photos has asked to remain anonymous. Telemundo Nebraska asked the Corrections Department for photos of the water, and they did not respond. Camacho says she and 15 other prisoners began to feel sick last October, shortly after noticing the murky color and smell of the water.
I felt extremely bloated to where anytime I ate just the smallest little portion, I felt like I was just I just had 8 to 10 course meal. I mean, and you could tell because my stomach was so pushed out because of it. I was using the restroom constantly. I didn't feel good. Like I was constantly tired and just sick and it just wasn't normal.
After taking a test, she came out positive for another stomach illness, Helicobacter pylori, also known as H. pylori. This infection is similar to E. coli and is mainly transmitted by contaminated water. Jeff Powell, State Health Department spokesman, says they have received some reports of H. pylori, but Powell says it is not considered an outbreak. Despite the confirmed cases among inmates, Corrections Department spokesperson Dane Urbanovsky had this to say about the increase in infections. H. pylori is not a mandated reportable infection. The Nebraska Correctional Center for Women, like all public water systems, is required to routinely test for total coliform bacteria, including E. coli. Like Camacho, Carla Walker, a former York prison inmate, remembers outbreaks of such infections despite not knowing she had H. pylori.
There would be these outbreaks, and I got them as well. And I'm thinking, I'm bathing, and I practice good hygiene. Why are there sores? And sometimes it felt like the water was actually burning.
Since her release from prison in 2021, Walker says she has had no other health problems.
And I went into prison in 2014, and I discovered that the water samplings that they had to post, that was mandatory for them to post, was outdated. So that told me they weren't doing what they were supposed to. Then I wrote to the Department of Health and Human Services and said, look, women are getting sick. Something's wrong. They're not taking the samples like they're supposed to. So then they quickly ran and took samples. Boom, they discover high levels of certain things that aren't going to be there.
We asked the Corrections Department how many E. coli infections there were in 2023, and so far of the year 2024. The department would not provide any numbers, but they did say this. Monthly water samples are submitted via the Public Health Environmental Laboratory. We also work with the York City Water Department to perform ongoing water testing and training of staff. There's regular communication with the Nebraska Department of Environment and Energy to make sure any water concerns are addressed in an appropriate and timely manner. Camacho, like Walker, claims that the water has a urine smell and an earthy taste, which she believes is caused by the farms surrounding the prison in York. And now Brenda Flores, Camacho's mother, says she feels desperate because her daughter is one of the 32 Hispanic prisoners in York, and they're not being treated humanely.
Como una madre es muy duro, porque las mujeres y mi hija no es perros.
As a mother, it is very hard because the women and my daughter are not dogs. They are in jail for crimes they committed, and they do not deserve to be treated like animals. It's hard. It is very hard. Flores, who lives in Scottsbluff, a 6-hour drive from the prison, explains that it is difficult to be so far from her daughter, who is dealing with the repercussions of this infection, which leaves blisters all over her body. She has these things on her face. She has these things on her hands. She has pain in her stomach. She has all of that. Walker says their next steps are to reach out to senators and other organizations for support.
We've reached out to all kinds of different entities. There are some in our group who are ready to do lawsuits, but it's like we're getting to the point where we're not being left much choice.
Reporting for Telemundo Nebraska, I'm Natalie Science.